I don't think everyone should buy a house. Some people just actually don't know and haven't been taught how to manage money. And maybe it wouldn't be the best thing for them to jump right into home buying. Maybe they should rent for a while.
Sellers really have it in their head that you just need to have it open every weekend until the house sells, which is not true. I mean, your house is open 24 hours a day online to people. If they are real buyers, they're already working with a realtor. So what your open house is for is all your nosy neighbors.
Realtors do not have to load you up in their car and drive you around.
This industry would not exist without NAR. We cannot do this without them.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show that explores trending topics in real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. We're a small team of professionals with over $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 successful transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Welcome to The Den.
So what is a hot take? And Aspen, actually, this was your thought that for an episode, and I thought it was a good idea. But why don't you explain to us really what a hot take is?
A hot take is an unpopular opinion, or maybe something that is a little bit controversial, all in good fun. Some will be more serious. Some are really just for fun and kind of silly.
So it's a controversial statement, not an untrue statement. Just something maybe that hits a hot button with people.
Yep. Where some people might disagree, like you'll have kind of people split on either side. Not a universally accepted take.
So if I said, what are those marshmallows you eat at Easter?
Peeps.
Peeps.
Delicious.
I love Peeps.
Oh, yep. See?
I don't like Peeps. No.
Instant reaction.
Well, let me tell you, I had a Rice Krispie flavored Peep this weekend.
Yeah.
I could eat the whole box.
Are you kidding me?
The regular ones, I'd probably just throw up.
Wow. So, I mean, I was totally lying when I say I love Peeps, but now you just like...
Try the Rice Krispie ones. I could love those. I could love those.
You love Rice Krispie Peeps, Paul?
I've never had one, but it sounds good.
Oh my gosh.
I love Rice Krispie treats and Peeps.
Right?
Terrible.
I love anything with sugar.
I was going to say sweets.
Sweets
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah. I wonder if you
Can't
could do
go
like
wrong.
could you do a Peep like as a s'more?
Yeah.
I mean, just cook it up
Yeah.
and stick that sucker with some
Done
chocolate.
and done. That's good.
All right. Well,
Or a chocolate Peep. It's already done.
you've heard it here. Hot takes on Peeps with the Den.
They are wrong.
All right. Well, Aspen, kick us off. What is a hot take for you in real estate? Since we're in real estate, let's go for it.
My hot take, and I've actually said it before, is I don't think anyone and everyone should be homeowners. I don't think everyone should buy a house. I really don't. Some people don't want, I think we get pushed this like, white picket fence and you want the house. Some people want to travel. Some people want to prioritize other things, and maybe you can't maintain the outside, or you don't want to deal with a toilet breaking, or some people just actually don't know and haven't been taught how to manage money. And maybe it wouldn't be the best thing for them to jump right into home buying. Maybe they should rent for a while. I'm not saying it shouldn't be accessible for everybody if you put in, the work and you want to do it. I'm just saying I don't think everybody should buy a home. I think it's kind of pushed on people like, if you rent, you're wasting your money. But some people just do not want to deal with the maintenance. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, that's interesting because being in the business, we're like, everyone should buy a home.
Why wouldn't you be a homeowner?
Why wouldn't you be a homeowner?
Right.
I've told many people you are a perfect candidate for renting.
For being a renter.
Yeah, you should be a renter.
Yeah.
Yep. So I agree with that one.
Yeah, I kind of like that one actually, but it's probably not a popular opinion. I mean,
Probably not.
It's been the American
Not amongst
dream.
realtors, I'm sure. Yeah, because they want to turn everybody into a homeowner. But I agree.
Well, my
Not
thing is
everybody
just
should be.
like, if you are, coming fresh out of high school or college, or you just are a full grown adult and you haven't been taught, how to pay your bills and all of this stuff, probably better to maybe get an eviction on your record than a foreclosure.
Mhm.
There's just different things that you don't anticipate, or you think, oh, okay, it's going to be cheaper if I buy, but then your AC goes out. Well, who's going to pay to fix that? You are. So, and maybe they can't afford to do both. So I think it's an option. I think renting's an option for a reason.
Well, and you may change too throughout your life. In fact, one of the Connie Mack boys that we kept, who's become like family to us, his father, DJ, and DJ, if you're watching this, love you. Great.
He's
Love
not.
watching all the trips that you take. DJ has the thing is minimize and mobilize. And he had this big, beautiful house in Wyoming. He was a vet, former military. And he had this big house and he's like, what am I doing with this big house? So he sold it and bought himself a pull behind, and it's really nice, like fifth wheel. And he just travels, and he goes to all Andrew's games, and they travel all over the world. And so like he just does not want to own anymore. And I think largely due to that, he doesn't want to have to take care of the house. He doesn't want to have to worry about, when he's gone, pipes breaking, whatever else. So
that's what Bryce and I have talked about whenever we retire is like, let's go find where we want to live. Let's not commit and buy right away. Let's rent for a year here, a year there, and kind of just go see what's out there instead of just committing to buy right away. Now, whether that'll happen or not, I'm not sure because we do tend to just buy. But
your statement is more geared toward people that have never bought and aren't planning on buying. And that's
or
okay.
just don't want to.
Just don't want to buy.
Yeah. Some people just don't want to deal with it. And I think that is perfectly fine.
Yep. I agree. That's a great hot take. Shannon, what's your hot take?
You don't have to have an open house every Sunday to sell your house. We do
That's
it
fact.
for you sellers because you make us.
What is the stat? 2% of homes are sold from an open house.
Yeah.
Right. So that is something I think probably 20 years ago when people didn't have access to so much information, it was a lot more relevant to make sure to have the houses open to people. Even back then, if somebody really is a home buyer, they're working with a realtor and they're going to come look at your house. But I think that sellers really have it in their head that, you just need to have it open every weekend until the house sells, which is not true. I mean, your house is open 24 hours a day online to people. And if they are real buyers, they're already working with a realtor and they're already being introduced to that property and they're probably going to schedule it if it works for them. So what your open house is for is all your nosy neighbors that want to come see what you did to the house and what you're asking for it. And they're going to come over and let your realtor know that, you haven't moved that car over there and they want it out of the way. And, this, what didn't get fixed properly 4 years ago, that's what the open house is for. That's what's going to happen in an open house. Now, having said that, I do some open houses and I do like realtor open houses. I do think there is time that you need to have exposure to the house. So I do think that is true. I do think there is a time that tool is very handy. But I think that the idea that sellers believe that you're going to just hold it open and you're going to keep putting it in the paper, you're going to advertise it over state lines. That's another thing, people really believe that, a lot of people will say that, make sure it's in all the Durango advertising. It's on the internet.
The internet.
Yeah.
It's on the UK advertising. People in London see your house. People in Asia see your house. I don't have to put it in a print magazine in Durango to get somebody to see it. They go on Zillow.
There's different IDX feeds though. So if it's being pushed, so like I list in Durango. So if I have something like the Riverfront house, I'm going to list it in Durango because even though it's on Zillow, those realtors see it and maybe there's a realtor that's been looking for and they are looking just in right here, but then they see it pop up on their MLS and then they've added it to their, like maybe they will want to look a little bit further away. So
a little bit different though, in the sense that actually listing it in an MLS IDX feed versus kind of what, correct me if I'm wrong, from what you're saying is
like
the print ads.
Once it's online, I can't go up there and turn people's heads this way from Durango or Denver or wherever
if someone
else.
if somebody in Denver is looking in this area, they're looking in this area.
Yeah.
I don't need to go to Denver and try to find people to come look in this area.
Yeah, that's true.
But people really...
For residential.
You think about that. We do get that a lot. People that say that, I want to make sure that you put it over here and you put it over there and it's on the internet.
Yeah.
It's there.
But
it's anywhere.
But the open house is what you're saying. We do not need to do open houses
to sell houses.
Do you all concur or is different thoughts there? Because you said you would do
agree.
a broker.
Most of the time. Yeah.
Most of the time.
And I'm not saying I haven't sold houses at open houses before because I have. I have got buyers that come in and sold an open house. Or I've had my buyers go into an open house and call and say, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying they don't work.
But over the years, I could probably count on one hand how many times that's. And that's a lot of...
sellers really think that's the key.
Yeah.
Realtor open houses, I think, are more beneficial.
I agree with
so.
that.
Yeah. You sold that one over on...
Yeah. That place?
Linda in an open house, didn't you?
Well, no. They were pointedly coming during the time I hosted an open. But I was doing it for the owners. They were asking, and so we had a lot of people, because you never know. You get someone that comes in and they go, oh, this would be perfect for my aunt or whatever else. But that is really such a far shot. It's more about getting clients.
Mine, so I've actually never sold a house from an open house, but I sold a different house from a person I met at an open house. That. Yeah.
So you picked up a client.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the lure of an open house, is for realtors to pick up buyer clients. That's a good one.
Don't tell sellers that.
I like that. Yeah, don't tell. Well, we're spilling the beans with hot takes. These are controversial.
Yeah.
What can we say at the den?
And there are some realtors that swear by them, and they're going to have an open house every weekend until it sells.
And sometimes they do.
Yeah, I don't.
But most of the time, I think
we don't shy away from controversial topics.
Hi, I'm Shannon, a partner at the Lyons Group. We're dedicated to making your real estate experience the best it can be. If you're looking to buy or sell, go to sjcbroker.com and watch our informational video series. These videos break down the process and shed some light on buying or selling. While you're there, schedule a private consultation with one of our partners. We'd love to sit down, talk strategy, and give you the real advantage in today's market. You deserve the best, so take the steps, and we'll talk to you soon. Now back to the show.
Speaking of controversial, Paul Berry. Yeah, any hot takes?
I had two deep ones though.
Yeah,
they were fun.
So ours are silly fun ones, and now it's more serious ones.
Well, do you want me to go first?
Go first.
Since I'm kind of
I'll think of something
on the side, I guess.
Yeah, you're not very deep.
Coming
anyway.
in, I'm not very deep. Coming in hot, Lions. Okay, so mine is: realtors do not have to load you up in their car and drive you around. Yeah,
that's my favorite one.
I mean, the days of us because that was the thing was back in the day, you load everybody up and you take them on a tour. Now, having said that, I have some executives and stuff that come into town to this area and they want to know about the area. And I'm like, you can't just know about the area by meeting for 15 minutes. I have kind of a planned tour that's about an hour. I drive around, peel back some layers of the area. That's a different ballgame. But when we're going to see houses, don't jump into my car, bring your car, because you never know. You may have to peel off or something may happen, but then that way we have some flexibility. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
No, I agree. For safety standpoint too. I don't like it. I'll drive around people that are from out of town, or we're going to see a lot of places and I'm showing them the area kind of the same as you. It's okay, well now we're here, because when you're driving around, people can kind of get confused. So I do, if they're coming from out of town, then I will. But I had a kind of scary situation happen with driving people in my car too. So I just don't, very rarely. I think 5 people total.
Was that the one where you left them up on that logging road?
Yeah. Well, I didn't leave them there. Their car couldn't make it. So they were like, we'll just hop in with you. And it was not a scheduled one. We were just driving by. It was land, and I felt so unsafe. I was pretending to be on the phone. No cell service.
Yeah.
It was sketchy. And they were like, come look in the window. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I'm a football field away.
Yeah.
So I don't drive people in my car very rarely. And also, embarrassing stories. One time I drove the wrong direction. But I feel like it wouldn't have been a problem if I would have just given them the addresses.
Yeah. Paul, do you still drive people around?
No, I've done it in the past, but no. And I tell people, you guys need to talk without me listening. If we don't hit it off for some reason, or if something happens, we need to be
if they want to make fun of you in the car after the showing.
Which happens.
It would be so embarrassing to do that in front of you.
Yeah.
We can't relate to that, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, that doesn't happen to us, Paul.
Well.
But 20 years ago, people expected that.
Yeah.
I mean, we were expected to have a nice, clean car prepared, ready for every showing. You meet us at the office, we get together, and we go out and we take you on a tour. And that's not really, it's not really that way
There wasn't
anymore.
GPS then, too, I think, which has made a difference for people.
And you had to write, print out the maps and everything.
Yeah.
One of the first ones I did was a guy named Denslow, if you remember that name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I brought those guys around, and he was a Vietnam vet, and found out that I was a vet. And then all of a sudden, I'm stuck with him for 3 hours, and he liked to go into detail about what happened over there. And I was like, I don't. So
Makes it hard.
From that point on, I was definitely, let's drive separately.
Yeah.
Plus, if I'm going to go out to Cedar Hill and they got to go to Durango, why come all the way back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For them to drive all the way back.
And they're more comfortable in their own vehicle.
Exactly.
I mean,
And you never know when you're going to get somebody in there with your kid who then wants to start asking them to join their band.
yeah.
Because that's happened to you too, Paul.
Yeah, I don't want that either.
Oh my
Pretty
gosh.
soon your daughter's joining a band with some weird guy from California.
Weird guy. Yeah.
He is so
It's
nice.
very nice.
So you'll have to go back and listen to
But
our
that's a
funny
funny story.
stories podcast because that plays right in. Paul, you're up. Hot take.
All right. Well, the buzzword around real estate nowadays is, why do we need to be realtors? Why do we need NAR? Why do we need to be this 3-tiered system? And I think that my hot take is this industry would not exist without NAR. We cannot do this without them.
Interesting. I think a lot of people
And I have
believe that.
everybody staring at me right now, so
Well,
this is
I don't
kind of
disagree.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
processing it, you know.
Well, we had a conversation.
But you're right. There's tons of people these days that's a lot that people are talking
Yeah,
about.
they
They're
say-
unnecessary.
They're not doing anything for us. What do we get from it? What,
Except handling multi-billion-dollar lawsuits.
the lawsuits. I mean, that's a big one. If you don't talk about anything else, but we had a conversation earlier. This was probably last year, when you had a little bit of trouble with another realtor, and you were saying like, well, if we didn't have all of, if we weren't going through NAR, blah blah blah, and I said we wouldn't have the code of ethics, we wouldn't have our contracts, we wouldn't have pretty much the structure that we have right now. When I mentioned to you, like, well, they could have done this, and you go, no, they can't do that. I was like, no, NAR says they can't do that. If we don't have NAR, all of the processes that we follow right now go out the window. All of the protections that we have go out the window.
I think the protections for consumers is probably the biggest
Yeah.
thing, because realistically, we could get our own contracts. We could do our own stuff, and really, like, people would fall off, like, just like capitalism. They wouldn't make it. But I think the protection for the consumers with like the code of ethics is important.
Well, just think about it though. There's no back and forth now. Now it's us finding our own lawyer, having a lawyer write up contracts, them going back and forth through lawyers. And we know lawyers just bump the prices up. Everything would get
But we
way
have a
more
lawyer
expensive
like make contracts for us, just like we have now.
Yeah, I think
within the rules that we've set up in our industry though. If all those rules go away.
Yeah, really, NAR was established originally to up the bar because it was willy-nilly before NAR stepped in. And it's been 100 plus years now. But they stepped in to bring some uniformity to our profession, to being a realtor. And so with that uniformity, they created some structure. They created the code of ethics. And the code of ethics is something that we adhere to and that we self-police as realtors. And the question came up when we were talking this last time was, okay, now that this lawsuit has played in and they're trying to, decouple commissions and all that, which is totally fine. But what beyond that, what's the relevance now? They have to continue to stay relevant. And as a trade association, we've been very relevant for a lot of years, and with lobbying, with all these other things to protect homeowners' rights. But then my point was, I think that people are going to start questioning if there's not relevance being brought down from the top. Like, what are we doing? Because you're absolutely right, Aspen. You can go out, we can go get an attorney. An attorney can create a form one time and use it over and over and over again. And that's what they do on the East Coast. You have to have an attorney involved to close a transaction.
Texas too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so they're already being, intermingled into the business process. So then the question becomes, with the, advent of Zillow and Realtor.com and some Redfin, some of these others, then what's the MLS? The database that holds the information. So what you're saying is really the structure that's the most important.
Yeah, the rules that the industry plays by.
Yeah.
If there's no rules, we're all playing different sports.
Yeah.
Then there's no process. There's no start and finish. It could just go any which way.
Yeah. I do like the structure side of that thing,
Mm-hmm.
the structure side of NAR and being a realtor. The other side of that is, if it wasn't in place, we would still self-police, because we would be like, you can't do that. I'm going to sue you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. That's unethical or whatever else.
The only way to sue somebody is to have a rule that they've broken.
No, you can sue anybody for anything.
Yeah.
Well, usually there's a judgment saying that they've done something wrong.
There's so many vague things, though.
Sure. But you got to start out with an understanding. If there's no understanding, which is what I think NAR gives us, there's an understanding on how things should go. If it doesn't go that way, that's when we can start suing.
But it's not against the law to break the code of ethics.
Sure, that would be the self-policing. But if we lose NAR, then it goes to the legislature. And that's, I don't want that.
Yeah, none of us want that. I think it would have evolved some way. My point is that NAR needs to remain relevant because there's all these forces that are pushing in to say, hey, I've got access to the information. Why am I being forced to work through as a realtor? Well, the counter argument to that is, hey, we have structure, we have rules, we have ethics that are in line with what we would expect in a normal market. So interesting. So you think NAR, and I think most people would believe it. I do believe that NAR is still relevant and we wouldn't have the industry we would have today. I would agree with that. If there was no form of, if we were just willy-nilly all playing different sports. Shannon likes badminton. I play pickleball.
Mm-hmm.
Aspen, golf. Paul? Power lift or jump rope? One or the
Jump
two.
rope.
Okay, next hot take. Who has another one?
Well, I know you have another one.
I know I have one.
It's a big one for you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to disagree with you on it.
Are you? Yeah. I may even disagree with myself because I've done a lot of retrospect on it, but you want me to just say it?
Just throw it out there.
Here's the hot take in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take in real estate for me is realtors do not need to be at closings. All the work, this is just my opinion, all the work's been done all the way up to that point for you to go and sit at a closing table where you're really not a part of any of the documents that are being signed. At that point, your work is done other than barring some loose ends that you may need to tie up.
And I completely agree with that aspect of it because we are not needed at the closing. We're not needed at the closing.
You want to just sit there awkwardly for like an hour and a half?
And I usually do. Yeah. But I think that it is our job. We have gone through this whole process. At this point, I feel like it's important for me to explain things on the settlement statement. I know the title escrow officer is there, but, I want to remind them of a few things or remind them of what we had in the contract. And that's why that's in there. I want to make sure that, they're getting their keys or they're leaving their keys, I know we can get that done beforehand, I want to make sure that I talk to the escrow officer and when is this going to fund? Okay. So that we can't have those. I'll give you those keys in 2 hours now when they say it's going to fund. I feel like it's my job to still be there for that last minute guidance up until the very end. And I agree. We are not needed at all. But I think that they are more confident and more comfortable with us there because we have been that driving force the entire time, getting things done for them. And now this is where it all comes to a head and they sign that final paperwork and I don't want them immediately walking out and going, okay, I closed now. What about this? Now what about that? They said this, they said that. I should be there.
Yeah.
The only time, so there's been some times where we've had to button up a few things or I had someone get divorced the day of closing. That was an interesting one. I've had people get married right before closing or be like, oh, well, I actually want my name hyphenated. It's like, we've been through this whole thing. So there's been a few last minute things, but the one time I was glad I was there it was a first time home buyer and they had a new escrow agent or not escrow agent, the assistant, that goes over the paperwork. I don't know what their title is. Anyways, the signer. And so she was going through it and she was she was new and she's like, this is a new form. I don't know what it is. And was going to have them sign it. I was like, whoa, well,
yeah,
let's read it. Let's see what it is. So that was kind of, and they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, cause she was looking, trying to figure out what it was. And she's like, I don't know. And she was just going to have them sign it. I was like, then let's get someone else in here. I think just the advocating part is nice, but I probably go to 75%. I don't go to all of them.
Yeah. And it depends on the customer too. Paul, what's your thoughts?
Well, I couldn't disagree with you more. Denslow, who I already brought up, they signed up for the additional insurance and I had to go back and go, no, wait, stop. Because
you live in the country club.
Extends close. Yeah, they're buying a house in the country club.
We're trying to sign up for squatter rights.
Yeah. But I think, coming from the corporate world and doing large deals, you don't say to a guy that's going to spend $1 million with you in the next year, say, oh, go sign with our secretary over there. That doesn't happen. You have to finalize the deal. And I think if we look at this as purely sales, who's the one that they call when anything comes up in the transaction? It's us. So that last thing that they have right before it's finalized, consummated, we should be there at that moment.
Yeah.
Because if you just leave it up and say, my work is done, go on and I don't care what happens after this.
Yeah, but I never say that. So
Of course you never say it, but being there is you saying.
Also, though, if someone handed me the title paperwork, I can't walk them through the title paperwork.
Yeah.
That's not my job.
And so we get them the title work before that.
Job.
We get them the settlement before that. Hey, you have any questions? We've gone through this.
Utility switched.
Everything's done at that point. You have any questions at all at this point? No, we don't. Okay. And you're coordinated to sign tomorrow at 3:00 or today at 4 or whatever it is. We are completely buttoned up. You just need to go in and sign this. So I can see both sides. I've gone to my fair share of closings. I think if you set it up right, then for a lot of clients, you don't necessarily need to be there because, like you said, Aspen, I'm not going to explain to them what this additional rider of title insurance. That's not my lane. I've done all of my stuff to prepare them for closing. I do get it though.
Yeah.
Like it's like the apex of everything you've done, You
just feel you're too important to go.
No.
I think it is kind of like sometimes a waste of time. Like if I have an investor who's buying their 10th single family residence, I don't need to go.
Yeah.
They've got it. They're good. They've done it 10 times. But if it's a first time home buyer, I'll probably go.
Yeah.
Or if I don't go, I'm going to let them, like, let's say I'm out of town. I'm like, I have my phone. Call if you need anything.
Yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. I'll talk about the additional insurance. I'll talk about, some of the other stuff where it's their first time selling a home, because then they don't know if it's like, did you run a business out of here? All of these things, the questions that they just might not think of.
Yeah.
First time, after a few.
And I've asked Shannon to stay, because I think it's important. I've asked Shannon to be there just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, I had one where we found out they weren't citizens right at the very end. They didn't have a social security number.
Don't you think that should have been found out before closing?
Yeah, you should have
They told us that they had it.
Yeah.
And then it found out right at the end that they didn't.
Yeah, interesting.
I send the affidavit to make sure we have everything before.
But I guess that's my point is that, you get in there and for an hour and a half, you're sitting there and you're kind of playing on your phone, making small talk or texting other clients.
It takes 30 minutes, Ben.
An hour and a half.
He does big deals.
Oh, big deals.
Never
he does the big deals.
You know what?
And it takes a lot
the
longer.
big deals don't take long.
No, those are the fast
small
ones.
deals take the long.
We did
the vacant land. Yeah.
We did a first and second signing with a power of attorney for husband and wife, and the name was like Alexander, John Rittenheimer, George, and so every single initial had to be that way.
Yeah.
And it was a first and a second mortgage.
Yeah.
That was an hour and a half.
That's brutal.
Especially when there's like a VA loan with it too. Just throw it all on there.
Yeah.
But that's one. That's an off. That's a one-off.
Yeah. Okay. So 30 minutes. So I'm still on the fence. I just believe that if your realtor's not at closing and they've done all the stuff right, then they're not probably worried about it.
And I agree with you 100%. We are not necessary at a closing.
Yeah.
I agree.
But it does button up the experience.
I go for repeat business.
Maybe I'll start going to closings.
Paul's in it for the long haul. He's not done with you when you walk in the closing door.
I'm a one and done. I just tell him I'm
You're
done with you.
transactional. That's all it is.
We've closed.
I'm
I'm
an
done.
experiential one.
Ben's like, lose my number.
Yeah.
That's not true.
No way.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we are wrapping up. Oh my gosh, that zipped by. But those are our hot takes. Hey, they're, sometimes they're unpopular opinions and we get to hash them out here. We don't shy away from difficult conversations here at the Den, which is kind of fun. But I thought that was a good episode. I thought we had some good, we could probably do a second episode of hot takes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Easily fill up another half hour. So you may see that in the future. But until then, if you like our content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got great content coming out of there. Our Facebook page, our Instagram, TikTok, we've got it all. Or sign up for our newsletter if you want. So thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. Until next time, we'll see you then. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed and check the show notes below for direct links to our buyer and seller video series. The buyer and seller video series can give you an inside track on taking the right steps in real estate. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group or to schedule a consultation, go to sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com
We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in the den.